A little Butchie's Den weekend breakdown. That's right. When you look at this weekend, Packers-Vikings was a terrible game. That's all I can say. An absolute terrible game. The fact that the NFL rolled out all of what they rolled out this weekend, and it was thankfully saved by Pittsburgh and Baltimore, which was a great game, is just comical. Now, I understand resting your players. It's the same thing that happens in the NBA. I get that. But to me, when you talk about having to get rhythm, understand what you're trying to do, I am all for playing your starters. That's why I'm worried about the Bears game. The Bears, they did. Now, they didn't look great when they played their starters, but their starters played, and they played hard. Find a way to come back, tie that thing at 16. They end up losing 19-16. However, the Packers, they didn't, and it didn't look good. They had a minus 19 rushing attempt. Minus 19. It was an ugly game. So ugly, almost everyone I talked to at some point fell asleep during it. So we'll see where that goes. Obviously, a big one Saturday night for the Packers. A couple other weekend, look-arounds real quick. Badger basketball, they lose to Purdue. Played well for stretches there. Didn't play well long enough. It was the first 10 possessions of that second half that really got out of control. I thought it was the last 2 minutes as well in that first half where they just let Purdue kind of get what they want to do, let them get comfortable. We talked about what needed to happen and how they needed to not let Purdue get comfortable. Well, they let Purdue get comfortable. So that was a tough part. But overall, college basketball delivered this weekend. It always delivers if you're paying attention. You know I always say that. But that being said, we had some other college football playoffs, which I thought were all right. I didn't think it was great. The only game that I thought that delivered was the Georgia Ole Miss game. Other than that, I thought it was pretty boring. Indiana continued to roll. The interesting thing to me is that the teams that have had the bye have one win over the last 2 years when it comes to it. So when you look at the college football playoffs and the metrics and how you're supposed to play and what you're supposed to play, obviously there's talking about more expansion coming. But to me, I just think it's one of those things that, college football is trying to learn what needs to happen. You have the bye, you should have the advantage. I think the biggest adjustment that needs to happen is when these games are played. I know bowl games matter, but to have such a long layoff and then be asked to go play your best. We saw Oregon struggle with James Madison. We saw, different teams that have been off a little bit. They get that first week to play, and now all of a sudden they're clicking a lot sooner than some of the other higher-ranked teams in college football. So that would be my suggestion. But a little bit of a weekend recap here for the Butchie's Den.